Hi, I'm Ken Buckley.
And I'm Ann Trudel, and this is our boat, Naida.
She's a 1987 Passport 40, designed by Bob Perry and manufactured by Passport Yachts in Taiwan. We've owned her for about 3 years now, and she's been down to Mexico and up to Alaska by previous owners. We've taken her up to Haida Gwaii and up through the Broughtons, and we're looking forward to heading down to Mexico and the South Pacific in the near future. Please come aboard. Let's take a tour of the boat. We'll start at the bow. On the bow, we have a 55-pound Delta anchor with 375 feet of 3/8 chain and an electric windlass to haul that up. So we have a Genoa on roller furling, and we also fly the Gennaker off of here. We have a collar that fits around the Genoa. On deck here, we have a tie-down point for an inner stay where we can fly a storm sail. So we have a rib here. It's an aluminum-bodied dinghy. It's great for around here. So when we're at sea, we would deflate the dinghy and secure it here on the foredeck. When we're coastal sailing, we have davits on the aft end, which are just terrific, very convenient for raising the dinghy at night and keeps it secure, and it's really fast to drop it, so we really love those davits. So we replaced all of the standing rigging on Naida a couple of years ago, including the chain plates that pass through the deck and are secured to bulkheads down below. It's really important to check those chain plates. Any water leakage over the life of the boat can corrode those plates, and even though they can look good, they can be very weak. So we feel much more secure now knowing that they're new plates and everything's strong. So we have the whisker pole mounted on the front of the mast for pulling out the Genoa for downwind sailing. And then we also have the granny bars at the mast on both sides, so we have something that keeps us secure and we can clip onto when we're working at the mast. On the mast, we have a offshore main. It has 3 reefs, the third reef being a very deep reef, so that we have the equivalent sail area to a trysail. So going further aft, we have a cradle on deck for a life raft. We've currently ordered a new life raft. You need to inspect those regularly, and in our last inspection of the life raft, it failed its test. It did not hold pressure for the required duration. So we have a new one on order. You can also see the door aids on deck, and those give us ventilation down below when the weather's bad. And if the weather's really bad and you're shipping a lot of water, you can take the cowls off and cover them with plugs. So let's walk back to the cockpit. So here's one of the solar panels that we've added this past year. We have a few more that we mount on the bimini, in addition to the rigid panels hanging off the davits at the aft end. We have a total of about 750 watts of solar power to keep us topped up all the time. So this is the antenna for our Iridium Go for satellite communications. And on the backstay, we have an antenna for the single sideband radio that we'll talk about when we're down below. So we have a hydrovane self-steering gear so that you can be steering the boat without using your autopilot and without using the electricity of the autopilot. We also have the rigid solar panels mounted on the davits for the dinghy. So it's nice to have a well-protected space in the cockpit. So we have this great Dodger, we have the bimini, we have a transition piece that goes where I'm standing with a big window in it so we can have it in when we're underway. And then we also made side panels, big windows on the side that give us protection from the weather coming into the cockpit. Makes it nice and cozy in there when it's raining and windy. So in the cockpit, we have nice deep combing, so when you're sitting on the seat, you're well protected. Below my feet, we have a couple of 20-pound propane tanks. We have a nice big chart plotter in front of me, folding wheel, which is terrific when you're at anchor, makes it easier to get around the cockpit. Engine control panel right here. We'll talk about the engine a little bit. We replaced the engine with a Beta 50. The original engine was a Perkins 4108, and it lived up to the Perkins reputation and leaked oil like a sieve.
Welcome to the inside of our boat. We've got 2 cabins on board. The forward cabin is our main cabin, and just off the forward cabin is our head. It has a separate shower compartment as well, which acts as a nice wet locker. This is the main salon. We've got here a long berth that can be used as a sea berth, complete with a lee cloth that's just tucked away underneath. Behind all of our seats is storage behind the back, and underneath the settee is water tankage. We have 2 water tanks that hold a total of 400 liters, one on this side and one on this side. And here we've got our nav station, complete with its own little seat. And aboard here we've got communications, both short-range communications in terms of a VHF radio, as well as our AIS for marine vessel identification. And then we also have, as Ken had mentioned already, a single sideband radio for longer range communication. As well, we can get our weather forecasts and emails on the SSB. But just recently, we've added an Iridium Go, which allows us, is satellite-based communication, and again, can be used for both voice and data, although the Iridium is optimized for data, so perfect for downloading grid files and weather information. This is our wraparound galley. We've got a stove, complete with the oven. So we have a safety bar here, which is important when you're at sea in terms of protecting yourself, and we can put a strap on to keep one secure. And the stove itself is gimbaled, so that when you're heeled over and you've got a pot of water on the stove, it still contains water. And this is our deep storage. It's essentially a pantry. Here on the back is a combination of a freezer and a refrigeration unit, which we have recently separated to have a proper freezer, and then the overflow air comes into the refrigeration unit. The refrigeration unit has access both from the top and from the bottom here, making it relatively easy to get at things that are deep in the bottom. The refrigeration unit is currently runs on Freon. It's likely the original one that was with the boat, but we'll just be looking at upgrading that to a newer unit so that it's serviceable when we head offshore. And this is our aft cabin that we have here. You'll see there's storage for room with sails and a few other bits and pieces, but we can also remove them and have guests stay on board with us.
So I mentioned the life raft earlier. Going along with that is the ditch bag and the EPIRB. EPIRB lets the rescue people find you when you've left your boat. It transmits a signal via satellite, and this one is a modern unit that also transmits the GPS coordinates of the EPIRB itself. It makes rescue a little bit faster. And you can stack in some extra provisions and water and your personal papers and whatnot that you might need if you're having to leave the boat. Likewise, when you're on the boat and away from civilization, it's good to have a good medical kit. You can certainly put one together yourself, but we're a little bit lazy, so getting one that's pre-assembled was great for us. One of the things we like is that with the Passport, all the heavy things are mounted down low. So our engine is right down here in the middle of the boat, down low, underneath the settee in the Salon. This whole cabinet comes out when you need to service the engine, and everything is quite easily accessible. So you can see right here we have a nice large alternator on the engine. Puts out about 125 amps, which helps with the battery charging when we're running the engine. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the boat. And while it's certainly important to prepare a boat for going offshore, it's also important to prepare yourself. And that's something that Blue Water Cruising Association has enabled us to do.
So we've done different courses with Blue Water Cruising Association. One of the ones that stress the importance of getting one ready to go offshore is called the Psychology of Cruising. There's also opportunities in Blue Water to learn from others who have been offshore. And then one other thing that we've done to get ourselves ready to go offshore is we had an opportunity to do a passage on a Vic Maui boat 4 years ago coming back from Hawaii. And that was really a wonderful opportunity to learn from experienced skippers that we were with. Also just get a sense as to what the whole passage planning is and the kinds of decisions that one has to make when you're offshore. A passport to adventure aboard Naida.
How did we come up with the name?
Well, Naida is a Passport 40.
It is a passport, that's right, yeah. And we're hoping for adventure.